Greetings, greetings, greetings. Hello, fam. How are you guys doing tonight? I want you to know that uh, we are in a season of victory. And if you are dealing with this thing called addiction, don't be discouraged. You are in a season of victory. And tonight, what I'm going to teach you is how to receive that victory so in your life, especially in the area of addiction, because you don't have to worry about addiction. You don't have to worry about it. Jesus has already given us victory over everything that could ever harm us or hurt us. That's what the Bible says. The Bible says that Jesus has removed the ability of anything that the adversary has released to harm us or hurt us. And I want you to understand that because God has removed this thing to harm us or hurt us, we have to have faith in order to see it manifest. In other words, we have to have faith in order to see what God says come to pass. And so tonight, I want to teach you concerning having attributes of a teachable person. I believe that you must be teachable in order to understand this new way of life, this new way of doing things, this new way of living. You will not be able to live a new life without learning a new life to live. And so I wanna encourage you. I wanna help you. I want to minister to you uh, ways of how to receive a teachable spirit. How do you know you have a teachable spirit? I didn't even know that I was not teachable. I was in the band. Never forget it. Never forget it. Mr. Chambliss was my band instructor, and I was playing the bass guitar. And he had me in front of the class. We had a drummer, we had a saxophone player, we had a few other players, and he was trying to teach me and the classroom how to this particular piece of music. And I didn't know I was doing this, but I was holding a conversation and talking while he was trying to instruct. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He stopped the whole class, stopped the band, looked at me, and he said, "Boyd, you will learn a more listening than you will talking." And then he said, "You have one mouth and two ears." And he said, "If you listen twice as much as you talk, you will learn a whole lot more than you know." Now, I was embarrassed. I want you to know. I was embarrassed. But uh I was mad. I was frustrated. Uh there were a whole lot of things that were going on. But I accepted what he said, and then uh I I I didn't let him know I accepted it. I was frustrated, but he was right. And now, shucks, how many years is probably 30, 35 years ago? 35 years. He told me that, and I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. Well, tonight I want you to understand these attributes. These attributes. A teachable person is someone who is open to learning, receptive to new ideas, and eager to grow and develop. Eager to grow and develop. That's what a teachable person is. A teachable person is someone who is open to learning. Hear this: receptive to new ideas and eager to grow and develop. Now, I've been reading a book. It's a powerful book. I'm telling you, it's been a good uh, blessing for me to read this book. It's called Staying Sane in an Insane World. It's by Greg Hardin. And one of the stories that he shared in the book was how he was a counselor for several professional athletes that started on the college level, the collegiate level. And so one of those athletes was Tom Brady. And he talked about how Tom Brady was a scrawny little kid. And he came to Michigan and he taught him. And he said his parents on the day that they were celebrating individuals for the year, and they were about to go to the Orange Bowl. His parents came to him and Tom Brady Sr. and he said, "I want to thank you for helping my son." And he stopped him and he said, "I want to thank you for raising such a coachable kid. Man," he said, "he's tremendous, he's respectful, and he's like a sponge. He's willing to learn." And not only that, he said the what him and Michael Phelps had in common. He taught Michael Phelps. He said this is one thing they had in common. He says between the age of 4 and 18, this guy gave his life to swimming, and he was teachable. He would do whatever he was instructed to do. And then he had a little spot there when he was 19, after he had won the Olympics and all kinds of things, that he sort of had a little wild spirit, but he came back. And this is when Greg met him, and he said this guy was teachable. He wanted to receive anything and understand everything about himself. And then he said there's one other person that was that I want to say I gotta remove that. Not just one, several other athletes, but he said one in particular that had this mindset. I just want you to tell me how to be better. And the individual was Desmond Howard. And he said this individual surprised him because he said, if you tell me not to do it, I won't do it just because you told me. He said Desmond Howard was teachable. Well, I don't know if you know this, but Desmond Howard was the Heisman Trophy winner after 51 years at Michigan. Hadn't had one in 51 years. And he went on to be the only person that would win the MVP of the Super Bowl that was that were on special team. And it's because he perfected himself by learning from others. He perfected his craft from learning from others. I want you to understand one of the things, the gifts, the attributes that an individual must be is teachable. You have to be. If you cannot be teachable, you will not be able to get new things introduced and reproduce the new things. So these are the attributes I want to talk about tonight. There are a total of 10. Tonight, I'm only going to deal with 5. The first one is curiosity. Naturally, a teachable person possesses a natural curiosity and a desire to explore new subjects and new ideas. Curiosity. Do you know what good curiosity looks like? This is what it looks like. Do you remember when that little kid, your baby or your nephew or your little sister, your little brother, or your friend's child, that little kid that seemingly always got into things. Uh-huh. That's because they were curious. You know, when they would look at the 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 wall, and they would look at the socket, and they'll think about that's a hole, and then they try to find something small enough to go into the hole. Yeah, it's only because they're curious. They're curious. Curiosity can get you in trouble, but also curiosity is is what you need to be teachable. You have to have the desire to be teachable. That's curiosity. You know, it's nothing wrong with being curious. It can be it can be powerful when you study things, when you look for at something. I want to figure out how that works. That's where curiosity it begins. It's a desire to learn how something works. When you're in addiction, you got to be curious about how to get free. When you're dealing with addiction, you have to have that natural curiosity on the inside. Teach me how to be free, how to live free. If anybody can do it, I can do it. And if you can do it, then show me how to do it. Yeah, you got to be teachable. And the first thing you need to be is curious. Curiosity. Next one, the next attribute is simply this: open-mindedness. Open-mindedness. What do you mean by open-mindedness? This is what I mean. An open-minded person, they are open to considering different perspectives and are not rigid in their thinking. And the one of the ways that you can benefit from being open-minded, it is, I'm not chasing away ideas I've never heard of. I'm not chasing it away. Do you understand that a closed mind is the hardest thing to open? But an open mind can receive new ideas. Do you hear me? They can receive new ideas. And a lot of times we're not open, especially as believers, especially as Christians. We're not open to new concepts. It's almost like the law of first mention. Have you ever heard of that? That the first time you heard it, you believe it. And then once you believe it, it's very hard to tell you something different than what you already believe. Yeah, it's true. In order for you to understand how to live this life free from addiction, you got to have an open mind to a new way of living. Yes. I'm thinking, it reminds me of the way this guy told me I was raised. He said, I was raised that if they do it to you, do it, you better do it to them. Well, that's not always wise. No, that's not, listen, it's not always wise to go tit for tat. It's not always wise to try to do to others the way they've done it to you. Sometimes you got to walk away and let whatever happened die down. You got to do it. If not, you'll find yourself in trouble just because you responded. The person, another person in a group told me, he was like, I know everything. I'm already living by these principles. And I thought to myself, I didn't say it to him. I thought to myself, how foolish you are. How foolish you are. You're in a class with all of you dealing with addiction. You just got out of prison. You're living example of what not to do. And you're telling me that you know everything, you know all the principles that I'm going to teach you? Oh, silly fool that you are. If you were there, you knew everything that you could learn about staying free from addiction. These principles will make you successful in life. So these principles, these are principles that Mandela lived by. These are principles that Martin Luther King lived by. So you mean to tell me that you have accomplishments that are like Mandela and Martin Luther King? Now, I didn't. This is all that's going on in my brain. But what I was saying, your mind is closed because you don't want to come to this class. People, you must have an open mind to receive anything. You must have an open mind. Number 3, if you don't have an open mind, you definitely may not have this. Listen to this. A teachable person is a humble, and watch this, humble person, and recognizes that they don't have all the answers, making them receptive to feedback. So when you're not receptive to feedback, you don't have all the answers, you're not humble. Humble is about being bendable. Humility is about not being rigid. You cannot think that you know everything. There are some things you don't know. And if you're at a place where you're afraid that you can't admit that you don't know everything, then you need to check whether or not you have the correct self-esteem. Because you don't have to know everything to have the self-esteem to tell someone, I don't know everything. That's confidence. That's self-assurance. That's being receptive. So let me tell you again, you must be humble. An arrogant person is only an insecure person. Arrogance equals insecurity. Listen, I want to tell you. I got to tell you. One of the things that I have been is I have been insecure. Oh, yes, I have. I've been insecure. When I was younger and I used to sing, I didn't make the greatest grades in school. And I felt bad about that. I was insecure. I didn't I didn't I didn't make the greatest grades. I didn't have the nicest handwriting. I felt sort of insecure. Insecure. But listen, I want you to understand this. When I got a little bit older, I recognized that most of the people that I went to school with, when I got older, they wouldn't even remember whether or not I had good grades, as long as I graduated. My wife helped me when I was in 11th grade, 12th grade. She brought out the best in me. She began to tell me that I could do it. And all of a sudden, my grades improved. I went to college, and we both went to college, and we made the dean's list. But what it started off was I was arrogant. I would treat people like I knew I was better than them. The reason why I treated people that way was because I felt like they were better than me. Arrogance is a sign that you don't feel good about yourself. Humility, being humble, is a sign that you have great self-confidence. So, number 1, you must be curious. Curiosity. Number 2, you have to have an open mind to be teachable. Number 3, you must be humble to be teachable. And then number 4, you must be resilient. Resiliency is an attribute of someone that is teachable. What is resilience? They bounce back. To be a resilient person, they bounce back from setbacks and view failures as an opportunity to grow rather than reasons to give up. Hear that. When I have a setback, when I have a failure, I don't look at the failure or the setback to sit down, to quit, but I look at this problem as an opportunity to learn something, to grow, to develop to another level. That's someone that's teachable. They're willing to bounce back. Listen, when was the last time you did something that made you quit, that made you give up? When was it? I know perhaps I asked that question and some guys say, nothing. I always bounce back. Well, you know that there's some stuff that you quit at. I quit myself sometimes. Uh, I will work and I quit. Let me tell you what I quit on. I was trying to recover from a traumatic brain injury, and my wife gave me a game called 007. My wife purchased me a PlayStation and a 007 game, and it was supposed to help me with my brain injury. I got so frustrated because I couldn't get off the first level. I just got mad and quit. And I haven't picked up that game but one time since then. I think I did get off the first level. I don't know. But I got frustrated. I'm always because I used to be a gamer. And because I used to be a gamer, but then after my brain injury, I wasn't a game. I couldn't go back and do the same thing I did. It hurt me to remind me that there were some things I couldn't do. Listen, I want to tell you, you have to be a person that's resilient, that can bounce back. Yeah, a resilient person. Let me tell you how I've been resilient. When I first went to college, I purchased a keyboard. My mother bought me a keyboard, and it was a nice keyboard, but I didn't know how to record music, and I didn't know how to play that well. I could play the piano, but I couldn't play well enough to write music. And there were a few songs that I had learned, but when I got the keyboard, I stayed there and I taught myself how to play the keyboard. Every night, my mother would go to work at 11 o'clock, and I would stay up all night, one note at a time. I'd be making so many mistakes, but I wouldn't quit. I wouldn't give up. My first song that I played was Living Just Enough for the City by Stevie Wonder. And I recorded it, I mixed it, I sequenced it and tracked it out, and it was my first accomplishment. Listen, sometimes you're going to fail, but don't worry. Don't worry. Just bounce back. Learn what not to do and don't do that again. That's a person that's teachable. And number 5, you have to be an active listener. You're not going to learn anything if you're not willing to listen and be an active listener. Listen what an active listener is. They actively listen to others, seeking to understand before being understood. Wow. An active listener. This is the attribute. They actively listen to others before seeking to be understood. I want you to know that you have to listen to understand. And you have to be focused so you can hear more than you say. That's a gift that a teachable person possessed. That's characteristics of a teachable person. Next week, I'll teach the other 5 gifts, the other 5 attributes, the other 5 characteristics of one that is teachable. If you are teachable, hear me. If you're teachable, you can learn how to have a new lifestyle that changes everything in your life. Final statement. A person with these attributes is not only teachable, but also likely to excel in various aspects of life and continually evolve as a well-rounded person. So that's how you live free from addiction. You have to be taught a new way of life. I hope this helps somebody tonight. And don't forget, you have a 100% chance to live completely addiction free if you do it God's way.